The massive ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning, blotting out the sun like storm clouds made of metal and strange lights. Admiral Keth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Stellar Dominion, watching the blue and green planets slowly rotate beneath him. His 4 eyes studied the readouts with satisfaction while his communications officer reported the fleet status. "All 200 ships are in position, Admiral," the officer said, his voice carrying the confidence that came from 5 centuries of successful conquests. "Initial scans confirm our advance reports. The inhabitants are divided into nearly 200 separate territories. No unified planetary defense system detected." Keth's mandibles clicked together in what his species considered a smile. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 worlds in the past 500 years, and each victory had been easier than the last. This planet, which the inhabitants called Earth, would be no different. "What about their technology level?" Keth asked, though he already knew the answer from the months of observation. "Primitive, sir. They still use chemical combustion for most of their space travel. Their fastest ships take months to reach their nearest planetary neighbor. No energy shields, no particle weapons, no faster-than-light communication." The Admiral's second-in-command, Commander Yex, approached with a data pad. "Sir, we have identified their major population centers. Approximately 8 billion inhabitants spread across 7 continental masses. Their largest military installations are concentrated around what they call nuclear weapons, crude fusion devices that they actually aim at each other rather than potential external threats." Keth found this information amusing. In all their conquests, the Zephyrians had never encountered a species that spent more energy threatening itself than preparing for outside dangers. It would make the conquest almost disappointingly easy. "Begin Phase 1, Keth ordered. Target their military installations and communication centers. Standard procedure, disable their ability to coordinate resistance, then demand surrender. This should be finished by tomorrow." The first wave of Zephyrian attack ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like silver teardrops. Their weapons, calibrated for minimum destruction, struck military bases across 6 continents. The aliens had learned long ago that destroyed planets were less valuable than intact ones. The goal was not annihilation but submission. In Beijing, General Liu watched her command center screens fill with static as communication satellites disappeared one by one. In London, Admiral Thompson saw decades of naval planning become worthless as coastal installations erupted in columns of blue fire. Across the world, military leaders found themselves blind and isolated as the alien attack methodically severed every connection between Earth's defending forces. But something unexpected happened in those first hours of invasion. Instead of panic, instead of chaos, instead of the collapse that had doomed 47 other worlds, humanity did something the Zephyrians had never witnessed before. Dr. Anna Wells stood in her laboratory at the International Physics Research Center in Geneva, watching the attacks through her window while her mind worked at maximum speed. As explosions lit the distant sky, she was already reaching for her communication equipment. Not the military channels that were now silent, not the government networks that had been destroyed, but something far more basic and far more powerful. She activated every civilian radio frequency, every television broadcast, every internet connection that still functioned. Her message went out in dozens of languages, translated by colleagues around the world even as the attacks continued. This is Dr. Anna Wells speaking to every human being who can hear this message. We are under attack by forces from beyond our world. Our governments and militaries have been targeted first, but we are not helpless. We are not divided. We are one species on one world, and we will respond as one. Her words reached a construction worker in Mumbai who immediately began organizing his crew to assist local hospitals. They reached a teacher in Sao Paulo who started coordinating neighborhood defense groups through social media. They reached a farmer in Iowa who began calculating how quickly he could convert agricultural chemicals into explosive compounds. Within 6 hours of the first attack, something unprecedented was happening across Earth. Former enemies shared technology without hesitation. Corporations released proprietary information freely. Scientists who had spent years guarding research secrets began broadcasting their knowledge to anyone who could use it. Admiral Keth watched these developments with growing confusion from his command ship. "What are they doing?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Why are their competing factions cooperating?" "Unknown, sir. We have never observed this behavior pattern. In our previous conquests, initial attacks always led to increased internal conflicts as local factions blamed each other for inadequate defenses." The admiral studied the reports flowing across his screens. In Switzerland, underground facilities were being connected by tunnels that hadn't existed 12 hours earlier. In Australia, mining operations were being converted to weapons manufacturing with impossible speed. In Canada, weather monitoring stations were somehow being linked into a primitive but effective early warning network. "These humans," Keth muttered, "they are adapting faster than our projections indicated." On Earth, the adaptation was accelerating beyond even human expectations. Dr. Wells found herself coordinating with people she had never met, sharing resources with former competitors, building on ideas that emerged from the collective intelligence of 8 billion minds suddenly working toward the same goal. The alien attacks had intended to isolate and confuse, but they had instead created the first truly unified human effort in recorded history. Language's barriers dissolved as people found ways to communicate through action. National borders became meaningless as resources flowed toward whoever needed them most urgently. Ancient grudges were set aside as the simple mathematics of survival took precedence over everything else. Ben Torres, a mechanical engineer from Mexico City, found himself working with a team of physicists from Japan, computer specialists from Germany, and materials scientists from Nigeria. They had never met before the invasion began. They didn't share a common language. But within 18 hours of first contact, they were modifying construction equipment to serve as mobile defense platforms. The aliens made their first mistake, Anna told a global audience during her second broadcast, speaking from a makeshift command center that had been a university cafeteria that morning. "They assumed we would react like they would react. They assumed we would compete when we should cooperate. They were wrong." The Zephyrian intelligence reports grew more alarming with each update. Human industrial capacity was being reorganized with bewildering speed. Civilian infrastructure was being weaponized in ways that violated every principle of military logic. Most disturbing of all, the humans seemed to be learning from each attack, adapting their defenses faster than the Zephyrian computers could model. Commander Yex approached Admiral Keth with the latest analysis. "Sir, we may need to revise our timeline. The humans are not behaving according to any known patterns of conquest psychology." Keth's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the data. On every previous world, the native species had responded to overwhelming force with either immediate surrender or futile resistance that burned itself out within days. But these humans seemed to be getting more organized, more determined, and more dangerous with each passing hour. "What about their technology?" Keth asked. "Surely they cannot pose a real threat to our forces." "That is where the situation becomes concerning, sir. They are not trying to match our technology. Instead, they are using their own familiar systems in unexpected ways. Our shields are calibrated against energy weapons, but they are attacking with projectiles accelerated by magnetic fields. Our sensors are designed to detect standard military formations, but they are operating in small, irregular groups that appear and disappear like weather patterns." The admiral was beginning to feel something he had not experienced in his long military career: uncertainty. "Increase the attacks. Target their industrial centers directly. They cannot adapt if they have no resources to work with." But even this order revealed the depth of the Zephyrian misunderstanding. Human civilization was not built around centralized industrial centers that could be easily destroyed. It was a vast, interconnected web of knowledge and capability that existed as much in human minds as in physical structures. Destroying a factory only meant that production moved to a dozen smaller facilities. Destroying a research center only meant that the research moved to universities, garages, and kitchen tables across the world. As the first day of invasion ended, Admiral Keth stood on his bridge staring down at the planet that was supposed to have surrendered by now. Instead of the broken and scattered resistance he had expected, he was seeing something that his species had never encountered in 500 years of galactic conquest. He was seeing 8 billion humans who had just discovered what they could accomplish when they stopped fighting each other and started fighting for each other. The conquest of Earth was not proceeding according to plan. 3 weeks after the invasion began, Admiral Keth found himself staring at reports that made no sense according to every military manual in the Zephyrian fleet. His forces were losing ships. Not just damaged vessels that could be repaired, but completely destroyed warships that had simply vanished from his sensors during what should have been routine patrol missions. "Show me the latest incident," Keth ordered his tactical officer. The holographic display lit up with data from the previous night. A Zephyrian destroyer had been conducting reconnaissance over what humans called the Pacific Ocean when it simply stopped responding to communications. Satellite imagery showed debris scattered across a 50-kilometer area of water. "What destroyed it?" Keth asked. "Unknown, sir. The wreckage analysis suggests the ship's power core was somehow destabilized from the inside. But our ships are supposed to be immune to primitive human weapons." Commander Yex approached with another data pad, his expression grim. "Sir, we have lost 17 ships in the past week. Each incident appears different, but they all share one common factor. Which is? The attacks are coming from directions and using methods that our tactical computers cannot predict or counter. The humans are not fighting us the way they fight each other." On Earth, Ben Torres wiped grease from his hands as he stepped back from his latest creation. The converted garage in what had once been a suburb of Mexico City now looked like something between a laboratory and a scrapyard. Around him, his international team of engineers and scientists worked on projects that would have been impossible to explain to anyone just a month earlier. "Anna, you need to see this," Ben called out to Dr. Wells, who was coordinating global resistance efforts from a bank of computers that had been cobbled together from salvaged electronics. She walked over to examine the device Ben had been working on. It looked like a household microwave oven that had been opened up and filled with components salvaged from a crashed alien patrol ship. "We finally figured out how their navigation system works," Ben explained. "The aliens use something they call quantum resonance crystals to coordinate their ships. Every vessel has one, and they all vibrate at the same frequency." Anna studied the improvised machine. "What does that mean for us?" "It means we can track them," said Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a quantum physicist who had flown in from Tokyo specifically to work on this project. "But more than that, we can interfere with their coordination. Watch." She activated the device, and immediately every human-built detector in the area began picking up alien ship positions within a 1,000-kilometer radius. But the display also showed something else. The alien ships were beginning to drift slightly off course, their formation becoming less precise. "Their navigation depends on those crystals being perfectly synchronized," Ben explained. "When we create interference, they start making small errors. Nothing dramatic, but enough to make them vulnerable." Anna smiled as the implications became clear. "How quickly can we build more of these?" "We already have teams in 40 cities working on copies," Yuki replied. "But Ben has an even better idea." Ben activated another device, this one built into what had once been a washing machine. "If we can interfere with their navigation crystals, what do you think happens when we overload them?" The answer came 3 hours later when a Zephyrian patrol ship attempting to investigate human activity in the area suddenly exploded in a bright flash that could be seen from space. The quantum crystal that coordinated the ship's systems had been pushed beyond its tolerance limits, causing a cascade failure that destroyed the entire vessel in seconds. Admiral Keth received the news of the latest loss while reviewing casualty reports that showed his invasion force had been reduced to fewer than 150 ships. What made the situation even more alarming was that human resistance was not decreasing as expected. Instead, it was becoming more coordinated and more effective with each passing day. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we have identified the source of the increased human coordination. A scientist named Anna Wells has been broadcasting instructions for weapon construction and tactical coordination across their entire communication network. Why haven't we eliminated this target? Keth demanded. We have tried, sir. 17 times. But the humans have created a protection network around key individuals that we cannot penetrate. They move their important people constantly, using routes that change every few hours. When we target one location, they are already somewhere else. Keth studied the tactical display showing human activity across the planet. What had initially appeared to be random chaos was now clearly revealed as sophisticated coordination. The humans had turned their entire planet into a single, integrated defense network. How are they communicating without detectable signals? He asked. They are using their existing infrastructure in ways we did not anticipate. Underground cables, reflected radio signals, even synchronized timing based on their planet's rotation. Their communication methods are primitive but extremely difficult to disrupt because they use redundant systems that can function independently. On Earth, Anna was coordinating with resistance cells across 6 continents simultaneously. The communication network that had evolved over the past 3 weeks was unlike anything in human history. Scientists in underground laboratories shared research with factory workers who modified the designs for mass production. Military personnel who had lost their official commands now worked directly with civilian engineers to create weapons that existed nowhere in any official manual. We have a problem, reported Maria Santos, a systems analyst who had been tracking alien response patterns. They are adapting to our interference devices. Their newer attacks are using different crystal frequencies. Ben looked up from a partially disassembled alien weapon. That's actually good news, he said. It means they are reacting to us instead of following their original plan. When your enemy starts adapting to your methods, it means they are no longer controlling the situation. Dr. Tanaka activated a new display showing the quantum signatures they had detected from alien technology. We have been analyzing the crystal samples from destroyed ships. The aliens use a very specific type of quantum crystal that exists naturally only in certain stellar environments. These crystals are not just tools, they are the foundation of all their technology. What does that mean? Anna asked. It means their entire civilization depends on access to these crystals. Their weapons, their ships, their communication systems, everything uses the same basic quantum resonance principle. Ben stopped working and turned to face the group. Are you saying that if we could find a way to disrupt all their crystals simultaneously, we could disable their entire fleet? Theoretically, yes. But the energy requirements would be enormous. We would need to create a resonance wave powerful enough to affect crystals across hundreds of ships simultaneously. Anna looked at the data on her screens, showing resistance operations across the globe. What if we didn't try to do it all at once? What if we coordinated smaller disruptions to create a cumulative effect? Maria pulled up a global map. We now have resonance devices in 63 cities. If we could synchronize them perfectly, the combined effect might be enough to destabilize the alien fleet's coordination completely. The plan that emerged over the next week was ambitious beyond anything humans had ever attempted. Resistance cells on every continent would simultaneously activate resonance devices tuned to specific frequencies. The coordinated pulse would overload the quantum crystals that held the alien fleet together. Admiral Keth was reviewing another set of disturbing reports when the human attack began. It started as a barely detectable vibration in his ship's crystal matrix, so subtle that the sensors almost missed it entirely. But within minutes, the vibration became a resonance that affected every quantum system on every Zephyrian vessel. Sir, we are receiving malfunction reports from the entire fleet, his communications officer announced, his voice carrying a note of panic that Keth had never heard from any Zephyrian military personnel. What kind of malfunctions? Navigation errors, weapons targeting failures, communication disruptions. The quantum crystals that coordinate our systems are resonating at destructive frequencies. Keth watched in disbelief as his tactical display showed Zephyrian ships across the planet beginning to lose formation, drift off course, and in some cases, simply fall from the sky as their propulsion systems failed. The humans had found the one weakness that no Zephyrian strategist had ever considered. They had assumed that a primitive species could never understand, let alone exploit, the quantum technology that made Zephyrian civilization possible. Within 6 hours of the coordinated attack, the Zephyrian invasion force had been reduced to 73 functioning ships, many of which were running on backup systems that could fail at any moment. Worse yet, the damage to their quantum crystals had severed their connection to the Zephyrian home world. They could not call for reinforcements, could not report their situation, and could not request evacuation. For the first time in 500 years of conquest, the Zephyrian Empire had encountered a species that not only refused to surrender but had actually turned the tables on their supposed conquerors. Admiral Keth stood on his damaged bridge, staring down at the blue and green planet that had become his prison, and began to understand that the hunters had become the hunted. 6 months had passed since the coordinated quantum pulse had crippled the Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Keth stood in what had once been his flagship's command center, but the room now looked more like a museum of broken technology. Crystalline displays flickered weakly, showing static where there should have been star charts. The quantum resonance chambers that had once coordinated his mighty fleet were now silent, their crystals darkened and useless. Through the damaged viewport, Keth could see Earth spinning slowly below. The blue and green world that was supposed to have been his latest conquest had instead become his prison. Of the original 200 ships in his invasion force, only 37 remained functional, and even those were operating on backup systems that grew weaker each day. Commander Yex approached with the daily status report, though both officers knew what it would contain before a single word was spoken. "No change in our situation, Admiral," Yex reported quietly. "Life support systems are stable for now, but we estimate another 3 weeks before the backup crystals fail completely. The engineering teams have tried everything, but without quantum resonance crystals from our home world, repairs are impossible." Keth nodded slowly. The irony was not lost on him. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 worlds using their technological superiority, but that same technology had become their weakness. Every system, every weapon, every essential function of their civilization depended on quantum crystals that could only be found in the mines of their distant home world. Without them, the mighty Zephyrian fleet was nothing more than expensive debris drifting in space. What about communication with the Empire? Keth asked, though he already knew the answer. The quantum communication array was the first system to fail during the human attack. We have been unable to send any signals beyond this solar system. As far as the Empire knows, we simply disappeared. Keth walked to the viewport and stared down at the planet that had changed everything. In 6 months, human civilization had not only rebuilt from the initial attacks but had grown stronger. Their primitive radio communications now carried signals that his damaged sensors could detect across entire continents. Their industrial capacity had expanded beyond anything his intelligence officers had thought possible. Most remarkably, the unity that had emerged during the invasion had not faded. If anything, the humans seemed more coordinated now than they had been during the fighting. "Sir," Yex said hesitantly, "there is one option we have not yet discussed." Keth turned from the viewport. "Speak." "The humans have been sending communication signals toward our ships for the past 2 weeks. They appear to be offering some form of negotiation." The Admiral's mandibles clicked together in what might have been bitter laughter. "Negotiation? They have already won completely. What could they possibly want to negotiate?" "Unknown, sir. But perhaps we should consider responding." Keth studied his second-in-command carefully. In 500 years of Zephyrian military history, no commander had ever been forced to negotiate with a conquered species. The very idea went against every principle of their civilization. But then, no Zephyrian force had ever been defeated by a species they considered primitive. "Prepare a communication signal," Keth ordered finally. "We will hear what the humans have to say." On Earth, Dr. Anna Wells received the alien response signal while working in the Global Coordination Center that had been built in the ruins of Geneva. The facility was a remarkable achievement of human cooperation, combining salvaged alien technology with human engineering in ways that created capabilities neither species had possessed alone. "They are finally ready to talk," Anna announced to the command team. "Should I patch the signal through to Sam?" Sam Chen had been elected as the primary human representative not because of any official government position, but because his calm leadership during the resistance had earned respect across all the world's former national boundaries. Before the invasion, he had been a farmer in rural China. Now he was arguably the most trusted person on Earth. "Put them through," Sam said, settling into the communication chair that had been built using a combination of human ergonomics and alien display technology. The holographic projector activated, showing the image of Admiral Keth standing in his damaged command center. The alien leader's 4 eyes studied Sam carefully, clearly trying to understand what kind of creature had defeated the mighty Zephyrian Empire. "I am Admiral Keth of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet," the alien said, his voice carrying through universal translators that human scientists had reverse-engineered from captured equipment. "You requested communication." Sam nodded respectfully. "I am Sam Chen, speaking for the people of Earth. We have been monitoring your situation for several weeks. We know about your damaged ships and failing life support systems." Keth's posture stiffened. "If you contacted us to offer surrender terms, I must inform you that the Zephyrian Empire does not negotiate with conquered species." "I think there has been a misunderstanding," Sam replied calmly. "You are not our conqueror, Admiral. Your fleet is disabled, your communication with your home world has been severed, and your ships are slowly dying. We contacted you because we wanted to offer help." The silence that followed stretched for nearly a minute. Keth's 4 eyes blinked in a pattern that indicated complete confusion. "Help?" Keth finally managed. "You wish to help us?" Anna stepped forward into the communication range. "Admiral, we know that your ships depend on quantum resonance crystals that can only be found on your home world. We also know that your people chose conquest because your planet is dying from resource depletion. Is this correct?" Keth hesitated before answering. "Our world has been facing environmental collapse for over 2 centuries. Expansion was necessary for survival." Sam leaned forward. "What if I told you that expansion was still possible, but without conquest? What if there was a way for both our species to survive and prosper?" "That is impossible," Keth replied. "The resources required for Zephyrian survival cannot be shared." "That's where you are wrong," Anna said, activating a holographic display that showed the solar system. "You have been thinking in terms of scarcity, but this system has 8 planets and thousands of smaller bodies. More resources than either of our species could use in 1,000 years. The display zoomed in on Mars, showing detailed surface maps that had been created using combined human and Zephyrian sensor technology. "Mars has been our target for colonization for decades," Anna continued. "But we lack the advanced technology needed for large-scale terraforming. You have that technology, but you lack the adaptability needed to work with the planet's existing conditions." Sam stood up, his expression serious but not hostile. "Admiral, what we are proposing is partnership. Your people provide terraforming technology and we provide adaptation expertise. Together, we create a new world that can support both human and Zephyrian populations." Keth stared at the images of Mars, his mind struggling to process what he was hearing. "You would share a world with us? After we attacked your planet?" "We would prefer to share it rather than fight over it," Sam replied. "War is expensive and dangerous for everyone involved. Cooperation is more efficient." Commander Yex appeared in the communication range, his expression desperate. "Admiral, our people are dying. If the humans are offering a path to survival, should we not consider it?" For the first time in the conversation, Keth's military composure cracked slightly. "What you ask is unprecedented. The Zephyrian Empire has never formed partnerships with other species. The Zephyrian Empire conquered worlds with working ecosystems, Anna pointed out. Mars is a dead world that will kill anyone who tries to live there without extensive preparation. This situation is also unprecedented. Sam walked closer to the communication unit. Admiral, let me be very clear about our offer. We will help repair your ships using hybrid human-Zephyrian technology. We will provide you with the resources needed to save your failing people. In return, you will help us terraform Mars into a world where both our species can live. No conquest, no submission, just cooperation between equals working toward a common goal. Keth looked around his damaged command center, seeing the faces of crew members who had been born believing in the superiority of their species but now faced the reality of depending on those they had considered inferior. If we agree to this partnership, Keth said slowly, what guarantees do we have that humans will not seek revenge for our attacks? Sam smiled for the first time in the conversation. Admiral, if we wanted revenge, we would simply wait for your ships to fail and your people to die. Instead, we are offering you a future. The best guarantee we can give you is that cooperation serves both our interests better than conflict. Over the following weeks, teams of human and Zephyrian engineers worked together in ways that neither species had thought possible. Human creativity combined with Zephyrian precision created hybrid technologies that exceeded what either group could have achieved alone. Damaged alien ships were repaired using improvised human solutions that actually improved their original designs. The terraforming project for Mars began 3 months later. Zephyrian atmospheric processors, modified with human environmental knowledge, began transforming the red planet's atmosphere. Human agricultural techniques, enhanced with alien biological systems, prepared the soil for crops that could feed both species. Admiral Keth found himself working directly with former enemies, sharing knowledge and resources in ways that violated every principle of Zephyrian military doctrine. But as he watched Mars slowly change from a dead world into something that could support life, he began to understand what humans called hope. Sam Chen stood on the observation deck of the joint Human-Zephyrian research station orbiting Mars, watching construction ships from both worlds working together to build the first mixed-species colony in the galaxy. Beside him, Admiral Keth studied the same view with all 4 eyes focused on the future they were creating together. Your species taught mine something important, Sam said quietly. Sometimes the greatest victory is not defeating your enemy, but discovering that you never needed to be enemies at all. Keth's mandibles clicked in what humans had learned was his species' equivalent of a thoughtful smile. Perhaps that lesson will spread beyond our 2 worlds. Below them, Mars continued its transformation from dead rock to living world, proof that former enemies could become partners when they chose cooperation over conquest. The species that had believed they would conquer Earth had instead found something far more valuable, allies who were willing to share the stars.